Alright folks, buckle up. The Department of Justice just dropped the Ghislaine Maxwell interview transcripts, and well, it's causing a storm. On the surface, it's transparency, but the timing, the wording, and most importantly, what's left out all starts to smell a little convenient. Maxwell obviously denies that there's a client list.
Do you have a list of names in your head or names that come to mind of people that you know did get massages when they were with Mr. Epstein?
No, there's no list. There's no list of people getting massages. I don't have, I can barely recall all the people. I can barely recall, I struggle to recall actual people that I met, and I may have met a long time, but I had even forgotten that about Mr. Kennedy, or I probably brought it up yesterday. It just came to my mind now. So I don't have, and there's no list. There was never a list. There was no, or certainly none that I ever saw, none I ever heard of, none that I ever witnessed, there's no list.
She gives Trump a surprisingly clean bill, and even hints that Epstein's death might not be what they say. But if you dig deep into the content, it gets weird. She repeatedly denies knowledge of any so-called client list, contradicting earlier statements from people like Pam Bondi.
Well, Trump has talked about the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Who insisted there was one. And then there's the repeated praise for Donald Trump. She claims she never saw him act inappropriately with anyone connected to Epstein. That part alone is enough to make everyone pause. And oh yeah, she cast doubt on Epstein's death, suggesting it might have been the result of an internal situation at the prison. That one sentence alone sends 1,000 conspiracy theories flying. I just feel like it's weird that we got this. It's a transcript that's mostly her defending herself, denying a client list, and giving some politically convenient statements. You know, there's no new explosive names, no smoking guns, just carefully chosen words. It's like they're giving us enough to say, hey, we told you the truth while keeping the messy stuff hidden. And that, my friends, is classic damage control. And you know, let's talk timing. This release didn't happen in a vacuum. Maxwell is appealing for clemency. Trump's past associations with Epstein kept getting drug out, and suddenly, boom, the DOJ is releasing a transcript. All this is painting Trump in a very favorable light. You know, coincidence. That's what they want you to think. But when you step back, the timing seems a little convenient, almost like someone wanted to get ahead of the narrative before it keeps spiraling out of control. Remember, the DOJ controls the story here, and when the story is controlled, perception is everything. Now, if you actually read between the lines, there are some red flags. Maxwell's denials are firm, but oddly selective. The parts that could implicate someone powerful, they're quiet. The parts defending Trump, they're detailed. And the Epstein death comments, vague enough to keep conspiracy theories alive, but not strong enough to confirm anything. It's almost like she's being coached, or at least very carefully what she reveals. And when you consider who stands to lose the most if certain names get out, it's hard to imagine why the transcripts reads the way it does. We're left with a weird mix of absolution, doubt, and silence, and in the kind of case, silence is louder than any confusion. The public reaction has been, let's say, messy. Democrats are outraged, calling it a weak attempt at transparency. MAGA supporters are frustrated it doesn't exonerate Trump in the way that they hope.
Yes, I mean, if you were to take Ghislaine Maxwell at her word here, and I think all of us, you will, and the rest of the esteemed panel are looking at this like, come on, we understand that there's likely a lot being held back or outright falsehood at this point, although it'd be tough to prove some of those falsehoods. It depends. This is, I think, a moment where we have to ask, hold on a second. If she's unmotivated here to tell the truth, what are we going to get out of this? And I think that's where you have to see other aspects of this trial coming together, because she's telling us that essentially the only criminality that occurred here was Jeffrey Epstein's, that he hid, that even she, who was so close to him, didn't know about. It's just not credible. It's just not credible. That part of it, I think, is where it most obviously falls apart. And as for the list, or the possible blackmail list, again, I think this is a little bit, the terminology has become a stumbling block here. It's, to your point, Will, clients, people who were involved with Epstein, who were giving him fantastic sums of money.
And conspiracy theorists, well, they're having a field day. Some see the transcripts as proof of a coordinated effort to protect the powerful. Others think it's a subtle nod to the inside players that certain details will never see the light of day. And honestly, who's to say they're wrong? And one of the strangest parts of this transcript is how Bill Clinton's name comes up, or more accurately, how it doesn't. Despite years of speculation about his ties to Epstein, Maxwell insists she never saw Clinton on the island, never saw him around anything inappropriate, and basically paints him as, you know, squeaky clean. This also seems convenient, just like the Trump part of it, because we've all seen the flight logs, or the supposed flight logs, the photos, the records that say otherwise. Yet in this transparent interview, Clinton walks away spotless. And here's where even more conspiracy angle kicks in. Why even bother asking Maxwell about Clinton if the DOJ already was expecting that he's innocent answer? It feels less like an investigation and more like a scripted alibi being read into the record. On one hand, we're told that there's no client list. On the other, the biggest names, Clinton included, just happen to come out untarnished. If the transcript is supposed to shine light on Epstein's circle, it sure looks like the flashlight got turned off whenever it was pointed at certain elite. And also, Elon was brought up among several other elite figures she was asked about and offers nothing incriminating. She acknowledges knowing Musk in passing, but denies any inappropriate behavior or, witnessing him at any of Epstein's properties or plane. And that kind of quick, tepid denial begs the question, why even ask unless you already know the answer would be clean? And then there's Musk himself, no stranger to the spotlight, raising hell over the DOJ's lack of transparency when the government announced there was no client list, and that Epstein's death wasn't murder. Musk took to X, calling it, "No one has been arrested, o'clock again," and sarcastically joking that the Epstein-Maxwell client list is one of those mythic creatures we'll never see. It gets juicier when you consider earlier evidence of social overlap. Musk and Maxwell were in the same photo at a Vanity Fair party, which Musk brushed off as photobombing him, and yet the optics alone fill endless speculation. And behind the scenes, Epstein has reportedly introduced Musk's brother, Kimball, to someone in the circle, but, let's not talk about it. So, in a single act, Maxwell clearing Musk in the transcripts, Musk mocking the DOJ's findings, and that odd Vanity Fair moment, you've got all the ingredients for a conspiracy stew: deflection, elite insulation, and, rhetorical fireworks, perfect for the people who believe the truth is being slowly smothered beneath the polished spin. So what's the takeaway here? The DOJ's release of Maxwell's transcripts are painted as a step towards transparency, but it reads more like a carefully staged narrative, selective disclosure, perfect timing, and politically convenient messaging. It all adds up. We may never know the full story, the names, the hidden dealings, the secrets. Those are still locked away. But for anyone paying attention, the transcript isn't just a document. It's a glimpse at how the narratives are crafted, controlled, and presented to the public. And that, my friends, is a story the DOJ doesn't want you to see.